Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining the To Hull and Back podcast sponsored by 6 Yards Out and Pearson's Bar in Hull. And tonight we're joined by Will and Matt. So, how are you guys doing?
Very well, pal. How are you?
Very well.
Not too bad.
Not too bad. Well, I am delighted to be talking about England again. We've got through the first knockout stage of the World Cup, but we're also going to be touching on a little bit about Hull City returning to playing action, because England are playing Saturday evening, and then we've got the away match at Watford in Sunday afternoon. Well, yes. So, I've seen a lot of debate on Twitter about whether it's club or country that comes first. So I guess that's the first question. What do we feel on that subject? Because I know it can be a bit controversial. You refuse to choose. Okay. Well, that I expected you might say, it's City or nothing. So that's interesting. That's nuanced. What about you, Matt?
City all day. The amount of conversations I'm having with Dad where we talk about what we prefer. Like, you always have these things at work or you're at the pub and they say to you, would you rather see City win the Premier League or would you rather see England win the World Cup? I won't even get to the second part of that question. I'll be like, yeah, City all day. But I still love England. Well, don't get me wrong.
It's the less likely one to happen.
Yeah, exactly. yeah, good point. But I'd say yes, City.
England are actually in the World Cup and Hull aren't in the Premier League, so I think it probably is more likely England will win the World Cup. But I guess because it's unlikely, I might say I'd rather have England win the World Cup. And then everyone's happy, everyone in the country's happy. Whereas if Hull win the Premier League, that's amazing as well. But it's just in Hull.
Yeah, but then you can hold that over everyone.
That's a good point. That might be fun. But as I said, we're through the first knockout stage. England 3, Senegal 0. And we tried to do a bit of a play on words there with the thumbnail or the title. Because, of course, we're the 3 Lions. We scored 3 goals. And then Senegal are the Lions of... I can't remember, but they're also the Lions of somewhere.
When you have to explain it like that, do you think it's as clever as it is?
Well, I was trying to be clever, but it didn't really work. Perhaps not, but it's a talking podcast. So hopefully that comes across, but clearly not. But a fantastic result. Whether the performance was as fantastic is up for debate, because the 3 goals were good, but the first half an hour was very dodgy. Pickford had to make 2 great saves. So, Will, how did you see the game in general, and were you surprised that we scored as many as we did?
As you say, that first half an hour was very, very shaky quite a lot of the time, because it was very similar to the USA game. We was letting Senegal press us and keep on us, which obviously worked wonders for the USA because they didn't let us play out at all. And they probably should have scored, to be honest, Senegal as well, but for Pickford. But once England got that goal, it just seemed to kill Senegal's belief completely. They didn't seem to be wanting to even attempt to go further again at that point. And I think the first goal did it, but once the second goal went in right on half-time, it did fully just end the game as a contest, because the second half was kind of a stroll. They didn't really push forward the way they had in the first half. England just controlled the ball. Once they got the third goal, they knew they could just coast the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what about you, Matt? Because I remember a lot of people before the game were talking about how difficult the match was going to be. Senegal getting through a fairly tough group, and then, of course, they're the AFCON winners. So just same question to you. Were you surprised at the great result?
I wasn't surprised. I was obviously very, very happy with it. Ultimately, we talk about that first half an hour. I think in any World Cup game, you're going to have moments in the game where you are struggling anywhere on the back foot. It just so happened that was our period of time, was that first half an hour. I agree with Will. When we got the goal, it looked good, and that it did kill the game off when we scored. I agree with that. My main sort of sticking point with it is when you mentioned the point about how the USA played against us and how Senegal played against us. It's a clear way of playing, right? It's a very clear way of playing. And I really do feel that ultimately, if you're a France team, and you've got better quality players. The counter attack was the USA and Senegal's main threat. The people that they've got compared to what France have got in Mbappe, Dembele, and obviously Giroud helping out there, and Griezmann. It's a different story. So I worry that we've sort of trying to think of the right word, basically shown ourselves to the quality side. So obviously delighted to get through. You've seen Spain go out to Morocco. That's a big shot. You've seen obviously Germany not making it, which is good. But I think ultimately, like we could go with the idea that if Southgate and England lose in the quarterfinals to France, is everyone going to be like, "Oh, it's a massive shame"? No, because if anything, on paper they should win. So. Yes, I'm not surprised with the result, the Senegal result, but I think we showed a bit too much for France, which worries me for Saturday.
Yeah, I think that's the major concern, that we didn't play very well until the first goal. I agree with what you said, Will. We scored that first goal from Henderson, which was a surprise to see him that far up the pitch. But he's proving a few doubters wrong, perhaps. But then after that, yeah, we had a lot of chances and we really killed the game. But I mean, against France, we're going to have to play a whole lot better. I still don't think we've had a 90-minute performance. We've certainly done enough, and Southgate certainly sets us up to, definitely beat the teams that we should be beating, like Senegal. But against France, it's going to be a much harder game. So, Will,
I mean, I would also argue France haven't had a 90-minute performance yet either.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. And so you've watched.
They did struggle quite a bit against Poland at times.
Yeah, I thought that, especially in the first half, Poland, if they'd gone ahead and were winning at half time, I don't think that would have been a major shock, because I think the way that we should play, which we have been doing so far in this tournament, is attacking with the 4-3-3, put France under pressure like Poland did, getting on the ball. Whereas, one of the questions you got here, which I was saying England perhaps should do before the tournament, is do we go to a back five? So, Matt, formation-wise, how do you see, or what do you think England should do against France? I can see you're shaking your head.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head. So is Will, and I agree with him. Ultimately, everyone's been crying out for this 4-3-3 for England to play it for a lot of these friendlies and the Nations League, and he's stuck with his 3 or 5 at the back, and it's just sapped every ounce of creativity out of that side. Bellingham's been an absolute revelation in there, and the way he plays in that 3 with Henderson and Rice, you've just got to give him a little bit of. You just got to give him that position, because without him, we are. It's amazing to say that about a 19-year-old, but without him in that position specifically, not part of a 2, but just in front of the 2, where he can kind of be who he wants to be. That's our best attacking threat, right? Obviously, I would say that if you're going to go to a 3 or 5 at the back, the team you do it against is a France, where they've got so much attacking threat. But I think from a mentality point of view, if you have played 4-3-3 the entire tournament and you then change it to a 5 at the back, what does that say to those defenders? What does that say to that midfield? It says that Gareth doesn't think they're good enough to defend against France. And look, it's going to be a tough task. Of course it is. But I personally think that you stick with what's worked. You stick with what's exciting. We're the highest goal scorers. So stick with what we're good at. Like, the defenders are not going to improve overnight. So why don't make the most out of them? Like, we're not going to win this game 1-0. We're going to win it 3-2. So I think we need to be wary of that. So in terms of changing the formation, no. Stick with what's going well and don't change it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I'm glad to be proved wrong that 4-3-3 is clearly the way forward. What about you, Will? And do you think that, I just want to mention Kyle Walker. I've listened to the press conference he did, and almost every single question from the Qatar media, English media, French media was
easy question.
How are you going to play against Mbappe, basically? So how do you see that going as well?
Well, firstly, you can't change the formation. You don't fix what broke.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way we're playing is perfect for our, especially with players like Bellingham, the way they play. Changing their role in midfield just completely negates what they've done so far. On Walker and Mbappe, I mean, it's the logical choice to have Walker as right back for that game, because he's the only one of our defenders really who can keep pace. I suppose Trent Alexander-Arnold could, but he's not a defender. So it's the best option because I mean against Poland, Mbappe a lot of the times he had Matty Cash on him, and Matty Cash has a decent bit of pace, and he did keep up with him a lot, but he didn't really hold him down enough. I think it's going to be a case of Walker just needing to maybe let him know he's there. Is the best way of putting it. First of all,
the old
so
cliche.
If you're going to go past me, I'm gonna let you know. And the thing is, because none of the players have a booking, it actually kind of helps England a bit as well because they know the guy gets suspended.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a key thing that
unless I get a second, of course.
Yeah, that actually that reminds me that I was a bit surprised to see Kyle Walker stay on the whole 90 minutes. I suppose
he should have been booked. To be fair,
yeah, the fitness,
Senegal.
The fitness as well, I suppose, was an important thing for him to get because he's not played. I don't think he's played 90 minutes, or the only other one was against Wales. But another player that I thought we could have taken off to wrap in cotton wool is Harry Kane, who I thought had his best performance at a major tournament in a long time. I know he scored 2 against Ukraine at the Euros, but on the ball, there was a great video. Same with Bellingham, of every touch he had pretty much in the game, and I thought Kane was fantastic. So he's mentioned how he wants to kind of hit form when it matters in the knockout stage, same as the Euros last year, didn't score in the group stage. So, Matt, how important is Harry Kane now that he's got his first goal, which he took really well?
Well, I just want to pick up on the point you make about him playing as long as he did. I think that, a lot of people talk about, Harry Kane's ankles and everything. Like, I think it was just important for him to get 90 minutes, just for him, just for his sort of confidence, and just to make because you just don't know. He might go to extra time, and you want Harry Kane on the pitch for 120 minutes, not just 90. So I think that was important. In terms of how important Harry Kane is for this team, he's massive, not just for his goals, but for his leadership and for his all-round sort of contribution to our attack. The reason why the likes of Bellingham and Foden and Saka and Rashford are looking excellent is a lot to do with the hard work Harry Kane does in terms of making the defenders run into areas they don't want to run in, being there at the right place at the right time for the goals that he's already scored. Like, he was in the right place for Foden. It was exactly the right channel to run in and lashed it home. It was a great finish. He hit it so hard. It was brilliant. So when I talk about him as a player, I think that overall he's massive. It's not just his goals. And despite him being such a lethal finisher, it's not just his goals. So I think he's massive for England. And as I say, that 90 minutes the other day will give him a real confidence. And the players around him trust him. When he can put the ball in the right areas. The goal he scored, none of the England players were looking at him going through on goal with any doubt, I don't think. They were thinking, right, let's just run to the corner because they know we're going to score. If you can have a player in your team that offers that confidence, not just from him, but for the entire team, it's there's no price on it. It's priceless, right? So to answer your question bluntly, yes, he's massively important. And I really hope that it's another phenomenal performance from him. I really do on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he continues the same record he had at the Euros where he got 2 goals in the quarterfinal. That would really help, and you want the big players to show up in the big moments. We didn't need him during the group stage, really. But yeah, he's having a very good tournament, even with the 1 goal. He's got the most goal and assists involvements of any English player. But yeah, it was very frustrating at the Euros in the group stage watching him come deep when he didn't need to, or maybe he felt he did. But this time we've got the exciting wingers who are scoring goals as well. So yeah, seeing him at the top of his game and the amount of goals we're scoring gives me a lot of hope against France. But we'll just touch on the France game again. So we played very well so far, got 3 goals, but how much chance do you give us against France? Because of course they're the world champions. So I guess, how do you predict it going? Is it going to be going to extra time again? And who would you play alongside Kane? Would you stick with the same team, Will?
Straight away, stick with the same team.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they can play it. I know Declan Rice today, as of recording, there was doubts about his fitness, possibly because he's ill, which is a bit of a concern because while he's not been I don't think he's been as good as he was at the Euros, he's still had a decent tournament so far.
Mm-hmm.
He got to pick same team, and in terms of the game itself, I'm hoping it's
a very
5-5
tough one.
England win on penalties.
Well, I'd rather we win 5-0. I can't take the stress of a penalty shootout this early.
Oh no,
or ever.
I'll be happy with a 5-5 we win on penalties, and we've come from 5-0 down.
Yeah, if you've blown a 5-goal lead,
what's the odds on that?
That's awful. Yeah, but I think it's a
Aaron Maguire
difficult
to
one.
score the winning penalty with a chip like Hakimi.
Oh, that'd be lovely. That'd be lovely. I mean, we've mentioned Morocco twice already. We'll get onto that in more depth soon, but it's going to be a very tough match. The first match I ever watched was England 1-1 against France at the Euros, and that was 10 years ago. So it feels like it's time for. Well, we haven't played France.
That was the first match you watched
ever. Yeah, well, I got into football very late. I know I'm young, but that was the first game I ever watched, and I loved Joe Hart. But I used to hate football. I used to refuse to play it, but then after the Euros,
and yet you chose Hull City, and you still don't hate football.
What are you doing?
Well, yeah.
I choose the Tigers.
It's your local team. It's your local team, and but it's been a lot of pain for England and France and Hull. I mean, but another question about England getting to the quarterfinal, and we've asked people about their opinion on Southgate for like the last month. But if England do go out against France and isn't, something embarrassing like a 4-0 loss, would that be something acceptable for Southgate? And do you think he should stay if that happens? What do you think, Matt?
I don't think he'll stay, because I think that if he went out, then look, I'll return to there's a two-pronged question. The first part of it is, if he was to go, people won't be thinking, oh, well, he didn't do this or didn't do that. Like he took us to a Euros final, a World Cup semi-final, and a World Cup quarter-final get beat against France. You look at the managers we've had, nobody's been more successful. Like in recent memory, like I wasn't born when we had our most successful manager when we won in '66, right? So his legacy is already rubber stamped in England history, right? He's brought the life back to national football. Like I said at the top of it, I love City, and that's probably because of years and years and years of watching an England side that play negative, that do all this stuff. And yeah, he's had his critics about playing negative, of course, we get that. But the way he's played and got us playing again a semi-final, major tournaments. This is amazing. So if we were to lose to France, a team that are the current world champions, yes, they've got a few injuries, but Christ, they're good. I mean, they've got the best player in the world right now, in my opinion, in Mbappe. And the team isn't half bad either. Like if you look from top to bottom, like they're missing Kante and Pogba and Benzema, but then the people they've got in there aren't half bad. I mean, Jesus, it's not as if they're bringing in a pub side from. It's not as if they've gone to the malt shovel and brought in a few players. Do you know what I mean? Like they've got an amazing team. So for me, his legacy, as I said, is already rubber stamped in English football in history. And if he was to go out, yes, it would tarnish it ever so slightly. But I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world for him, for us. And I think people would understand because of how good France are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, France are very good, and I mean they are missing. Was it Kante and Pogba and Benzema?
Kante, Pogba, Benzema. Yeah, exactly. Those three. The three of the best players. But as I said there, it's sometimes you can take 5-6 players out of a team sometimes, and you just need that one player. I mean, Mbappe, as soon as he got the ball, who did they play? It was Poland, wasn't it? Like
Poland.
That third goal where he got the ball one touch out of his feet and just drilled it as hard as I've ever seen.
Both were great. Yeah,
just brilliant. It's like side foot as well. You don't get much power side foot, but you just lashed it past Szczesny, and you just thought to yourself, Christ. But I was just going to make a very quick point. People are talking about Kyle Walker and Mbappe like it's like World War III, right? Shaw and Dembele. Like
that's another.
If Mbappe can't get the ball, like I don't think in terms of like the gap between like Walker and Mbappe, clearly Mbappe is superior, right? But the gap isn't massive, in my opinion. The gap between Dembele with his pace and he's just gunning towards a goal, and Shaw is a lot more. So I think that people will be focusing on that. But I think if France were to score, it'll come from that right side. I really do think it'll come from that right side, and Mbappe might be in the end of it, of course. But I really do think that is the biggest weak point in our team. But yeah,
I would also look at there's two that no one else has gone about at the moment, and that's Saka versus Hernandez and Koundé versus Foden.
Yeah, I think
Physically,
we've got to be confident in our players, and a lot of people have been talking about Mbappe and are the England defence scared of him, but Kane's a great player, Foden and Saka. Yeah.
France, if our weakness is our defence, you can argue that's also France's weakness is their defence. It's not as good as it could be. It's not as tight as it could be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think Alex makes a good point there about the swapping and I was going to kind of make a point in a similar vein. Like Mbappe's not just glued to that side. Like he can play anywhere. Whenever he gets the ball, You're talking about him against Walker. It's him against Maguire. It's him against Stones. It's him against Rice. It's him against Shaw. It's him against Pickford. Like they're all going to be mind blown by this kid because he's amazing, right? So obviously Walker's going to be dealing with most of the game, right? But I think Alex, who made a comment there, made a good point in that, like, he's not just going to sit there. Like, he's a threat all over the park. So it's going to be tough, lads. But
just need
don't
to
know in this tournament.
Just need to have Deschamps just suddenly benches him at the last second, like he did, like Ronaldo did.
Oh yeah, there was a nice sort of 20 minutes yesterday when I saw that Mbappe had missed training, and that got me very excited. But then it seems like he will be playing. But then I hear that Declan Rice has missed training as well, which is very scary because I think he's one of our best players.
Yeah, him and Callum Wilson apparently were ill.
Well, hopefully Rice is fine because and Wilson too. But Rice, I don't think we have a very good replacement at defensive midfielder. I know Henderson can play that, but then
it's probably Calvin Phillips.
Yeah, I mean Phillips has played well, but I'd much rather have Declan Rice there.
I don't think he can even. It's a problem with that one. He's another player who's not played at all.
Yeah, you wouldn't really trust him.
Be there.
You wouldn't trust him against France, would you? I was
just going to mention on that midfield. Ultimately, Southgate went with the idea that he'd have Bellingham, Rice, and then Mount. Right, so that was the three, and that's why he started the first game. He didn't actually think that Bellingham was going to play. He played so well against Iran that he thought, right, okay, and he was, to be fair to him, like Southgate was proactive and said, look, I'm going to change it up. And I'm going to make the most out of our best player. So the actual replacement for that midfield is Henderson. So Calvin Phillips isn't just a backup; he's the backup's backup. So that's the worry. Because he's not played. So that's where I think that I do hope that Declan Rice is fit and well because he's integral to that midfield. He really is.
Yeah, absolutely. But I will get us to talk about exactly how we think the game's going to go with our predictions. I mean, it's so difficult to predict because I think any other England team at the previous few tournaments or World Cups, if we were up against the world champions, I'd say that England haven't got a chance at all. But with Southgate, with the defensive solidity we've had compared to France, who I think have kept no clean sheets, we've kept three in a row. We're the top scorers, so I think we have the best record at the whole tournament, and we've just beaten a very good team in Senegal and made them look kind of average. So we do have a chance. I think maybe it's like 45 for England, 55 for France potentially, but I think if we can get through the first,
a lot of goals that.
Well, yeah, percent. I mean, the chance of winning. But if France beat us by 10 goals, that'd be kind of bad. And there's a goal every like 30 seconds. But I think if we can get through the first half an hour, which has been sort of our worst time, I don't think we've scored in the first half an hour yet, have we?
Against Iran we did.
Well, but then didn't we score after half an hour and then, no, it wasn't that early, was it? Maybe it was, I can't remember. But we have struggled against the better teams to do that. So I think if we can get through that first period, I think we've got the attacking ability to break them down, but hopefully we're just still in the game after then. So on Joel's fellow podcaster, his sweepstake, I've put 2-1 France, but I'm just playing the odds there. So that's what I'll say, but I hope it's not true. But what about you, Will? What's your prediction? And you don't have to
Oh,
if you.
giving you a 5-5 with Harry Maguire scoring the winning penalty.
Okay, can I have a serious prediction? This is a serious award-winning podcast, okay?
Drop that in. How long's that take? 27
Well,
minutes?
do you want me to grab the award while I'm here? It's right up there.
Go grab the award, Will. Absolutely. Matt, what about you whilst he's gone?
Well, to be fair, he's right back. Look at that.
Oh, yes, lovely. Audio listeners will love that. Yeah. So,
very good.
Well, just an England win after extra time. Is that it? Because it'll be very tight. I think.
Know.
Yeah.
I really have not. I have not a fucking clue how to call this because
it's very difficult. This is
the peak of the quarterfinals. Even ignoring the fact it's England, it's the pick of the quarterfinals.
It is. I mean, Netherlands, Argentina's got a history, but Netherlands haven't been as good in the last few tournaments. Well. But I think we've got the Mbappe factor and the Mason Mount factor, of course. So it is definitely the most exciting. That's just a joke, Matt. Please don't leave. Well, I will push you for an answer. I'll push you again.
2-1 England after extra time.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear. Alex has gone 2-1 France, so we won't be inviting him back on. And what about you, Matt?
Well, as I mentioned before, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I do think it'll be exciting. I do think it'll be 3-2 to England. I'm feeling positive. Like if you looked at it on paper, you make a good point, Nathaniel. Like we're the highest scorers and we've kept clean sheets, so we look good. I think it's the natural English persona and opinion that it's pessimistic about us in the knockout stage because of our history.
I can't be optimistic.
You can't because we've had so many years of hurt. There's a song about the years of hurt. Do you know what I mean? So
30 years.
Of course,
now.
30 years. It's a bit more now. So naturally, we're going to have this perception that any good team we face, we're going to struggle against. But look, I'm going off what I've seen so far. I hope that France have that little period of 15, 20 minutes where they're not quite clicking and we're clinical enough to take advantage. We score a couple of goals. Then they get one back and we're on edge, but we hold up shop and then we counter and then it comes to Saka and he drills it and we win 3-1 and we're into the semi-final. So my prediction is 3-2, Saka, Kane and an own goal and then Mbappe is going to get two for them.
Yeah. Okay. 3-2. Well, I think it might be a bit tighter than that even if either team wins, but Ant has gone 2-0 England, so he's been the most optimistic of us. We've not conceded at the
football, that 2-0. Worst scoring football.
We haven't conceded at the Owl Bite Stadium yet, so hopefully that little record stays intact as well. I've just jinxed it. So so a few mixed results there. I'm saying France will win, but you two are going for an England win, which is positive. So we'll look at the other quarterfinals and round of 16 games because it's been an exciting World Cup. I think it started very poorly, lots of 0-0s, especially at half-time, but it's got more exciting since then. So I've got the results up on the screen because it's a very professional thing to do. So Ant, Will,
for God's sake.
My apologies. Maybe it's not so professional.
Will, Ant's going to be in your DMs.
Yeah. Will, you're our non-England team correspondent. Talk us through...
By that you mean I'm sad enough to watch every game?
Yeah, but I wasn't going to say that. I might get your name wrong, but I don't want to be too rude. So what's been the biggest shock of the tournament in the knockout stage so far? I know what the answer is, but just talk us through it.
Clearly the biggest shock was Argentina beating Australia.
Seriously. Yeah. That's avant-garde.
Jackson Irvine. Miss that guy.
Hey, to be fair, those last 10 minutes of that Australia game were I was on the edge of my seat, especially when obviously they scored and then Bečić ran through and almost just turned into Lionel Messi for a few seconds.
Oh, it was amazing. And the chance at the end.
Watching it.
There was great save
from Martinez from goal. Yeah.
Was it Qua or something who's going to Newcastle, the Australian young winger, perhaps? Yeah. So that was a great game, actually. It's a good thing to mention. I was
devastated in the end.
Yeah, but talk us through the main one, Morocco-Spain. That was a big shock on penalties.
I loved it so much.
Yeah.
Watching Spain try and pass it around like they always have done for the past 15,000 years. Constantly just passing around. They did over. I think it was. They did well over 1,000 passes and had one shot on target in the main game.
That's really rubbish.
That's appalling for a start. But I think one of the other reasons that they had such a bad time is that Morocco defensively were absolutely fucking superb. They just left everything on the pitch. And you think, oh, they're knackered going into penalties. They've done everything. They've thrown everything at them. And you'd think Spain had never touched a football in their lives in that penalty shootout.
Yeah. Ant has said that Spain sound like a shotter Arveladze team, passing it around and not having a shot. So I think that's probably appropriate. But
that is the most appropriate comment I've ever seen. That's perfect. No, he's right. He's not wrong.
So I think Morocco there proved that, tournament football being boring and playing for perhaps a draw and winning on penalties is the way to go. Japan had a sort of similar tactic, perhaps. I mean, they drew the game against Croatia, but they lost on penalties.
Penalties were awful as well.
Yeah, so I think Spain are becoming England, really, aren't they? They've lost the last three tournaments.
Three in a row.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And as Alex
said... And apparently Luis Enrique, I was going to say you put it on the screen, but Luis Enrique said, you're not coming on the plane unless you've taken 1,000 penalties as practice.
That sounds...
Worked, didn't they?
But clearly, I mean, that's probably a similar thing of what England players used to do, just take a lot of penalties. But it's the psychology. I doubt when these Spain players were taking 1,000, they walked to and from the halfway line and took them every time. And had that awkward pause where you had to walk up. That's the most important thing, isn't it?
They'd lost it when they hit the post in the final second, in my opinion. Sarabia, he hit the post, chance. And you looked at his face after he hit the post, and you just thought, I'd imagine he thought to himself, it's not our day. And he was the first penalty taker, so he sets the tone.
Yeah, I was surprised he took one.
I know.
And when he hit the post again.
More surprised at the first one. Yeah, it hit the post again. So it was almost like it's that classic cliche in football. It just wasn't good. It just wasn't our day, right? But it's totally right. In fact, it's a mentality game, that penalty shootout. You could have the best players in the world miss penalties. Ronaldo, Messi miss penalties. Messi missed a penalty. Do you know what I mean? Like it happens, and it's all about your bottle and how you cope with it. Like Morocco players would have thought to themselves, this is a once in a lifetime. That's probably why Hakimi thought, so you know what, I'm going to wrap myself in the history books and do a Panenka penalty to win it against Spain. I mean, what a cheeky bloke. But I just think that
running through his veins.
Oh, absolutely.
Mate, brilliant.
Cool customer.
But it's been good. And I think I'm going to make a quick shout out point. Brazil. Oh my Jesus Christ. Like that third goal, I actually went to it. There's a fan park next to Wembley called Box Park, and my housemate is Brazilian. He's a really good friend of mine. So we went to the game, and when they scored that third goal, then Richarlison was doing a seal impression, knocking the ball off his head, and then it just turned instantly, and it just went bang 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 goal. I thought, oh my God, you can't teach that. That's just like players that are on one wavelength. It was unbelievable.
Chemistry.
And they were amazing. So, they lost against Cameroon, but they played a second team. They played Dani Alves, right? So, but when they play, knockout football is where it gets serious. And to go like that and play as well as they did, score 4 pretty amazing goals. I mean, I know they got the penalty, but the others were pretty excellent. To do that and completely dismantle South Korea says a lot about their chances. I predicted them to win it, and whoever faced them in the final is going to have a really tough challenge because I mean the way that they attack is unbelievable. Similar to us in that they rely on their attack because their defense isn't the greatest in the tournament. But Christ, you can't stop them from scoring.
I mean, Will, did you watch the Portugal game? Because I didn't. I was shocked to see Switzerland concede 6 and see that Portugal scored 6, and talk about Ronaldo as well. That will get us clips.
Yeah, I did see the game. I was also very surprised in Switzerland. I thought Switzerland were as poor as Portugal were. Fantastic going forward. But yeah, hearing just before, I think it was about the time that the Morocco-Spain shootout was about to start, they came on that Ronaldo wasn't going to be playing. And personally, as someone who, I'll be honest, I can't stand Ronaldo, I was very happy with that. But it turned out to be a very good thing for Portugal because they suddenly were playing like a team who didn't have to have a focal point, who they kind of relied on a lot of the time. They were playing very nice free-flowing football. They didn't seem like, for some reason, the way they play, I know they have a reputation for like diving. They've had a reputation for years for diving about and being a bit dirty team.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's because of Ronaldo, but for some reason, without him around, they just seem to be playing like such nice football. Even Pepe didn't come across as a massive unlikable git for once.
And that's really saying something. He's one of the real pantomime villains of any major tournament.
Maybe he's matured in his old age.
Well, you'd hope so. He's
he has not.
Unlike, I know he hasn't.
He has not. It was.
But
they were good.
They were really superb. Good. I loved that Gonzalo Ramos, fantastic on his first start for his country, hat-trick in a welcome knockout game.
Perfect stuff of dreams. That absolute stuff of dreams.
Well, because Ronaldo.
Point. Because he mentioned about, he said, but Brazil should be beating South Korea comfortably. And all I'd say to that is that, you'd have thought that Spain should dominate Morocco. You'd have thought that Argentina should have dominated Australia. They came within one shot of drawing it, going to extra time. You'd argue that Croatia should be better in Japan. I was just talking about the style and the flair in the goals themselves. It was, of all the teams that could have been an unlucky draw, it might have been South Korea who had Son and could have had that one goal that went in and then they struggled. But I think they were really impressive.
South Korea beat Portugal. Japan beat both Spain and Germany. They got what they did. They got where they were, beating those bigger teams that you wouldn't expect them to.
Yeah, exactly. But just sorry to interrupt the point you were making, Nathaniel, but I know you're going to go on to say something about Ramos. And just like you say, to get 3 goals, and that first goal was phenomenal. A left foot finish, absolutely lashed it. It was gorgeous, wasn't it?
Hammered it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for reminding me because I'd forgotten what I was going to say. But just a little statistic: Ronaldo had never scored World Cup knockout stage goal. I mean, it must be absolutely gutting for him to watch Ramos,
his replacement.
Was that his World Cup debut or his knockout stage debut?
It was his first start for Portugal.
And then he scored 3. So I think especially after the Piers Morgan interview and all the stuff Ronaldo's been up to, that's his just desserts for acting like a big baby, really. So let's move on to the quarterfinals. How do we see this going? Because I think the 2 at the top there of the graphic, Netherlands, Argentina, England, France, will be very tight. Those are 2 on the bottom. I mean, Croatia are a good team. Morocco, clearly good defensive team. But do we think it'll be Brazil and Portugal on that side? What do you think, Matt?
Brazil or Portugal on the bottom side. So I think that, I mean, it's an easy thing to say that Brazil and Portugal are going to go through. And that would be an amazing semi-final, that. Brazil against Portugal, sort of Neymar against...
They're not in the same side of the draw.
Oh, apologies. It would be my bad. So I'm thinking... Because we played Portugal. That's
Nathaniel's fault,
that. no, that's my fault. I didn't read the lines. No, that's fine. I tell you what, I'll cover the left side, Will, if you want to cover the right. So... Between Brazil and Croatia, I think that Brazil, having just given them a big rap, I think they'll dominate Croatia and they'll have too much going forward. So they should go through. Naturally, it's a World Cup, so you just don't know, but I think they should. That Argentina game against the Netherlands is so tasty. It's unbelievable.
I know. I can't wait to watch it.
You talk about defensively, the Netherlands with what they've got, Van Dijk, De Ligt, De Vries, and Dumfries was excellent against the United States. So those 4, and then Argentina, just the aura of Messi and what he brings to any major tournament. It's mouth-watering. I can't wait for that one. It will be one of them games that I think will go down in history because I think both sides are due. Obviously, a due a sort of a major tournament victory. I don't think the Netherlands have won it, So Argentina haven't won it for a long, long time. And Messi's obviously, it'll probably be his last World Cup. He might get That's World Cup where he really contributes. So it's going to be an absolute powerhouse, that. But I do truly believe that the Netherlands will go through. I just think that, Argentina will rely on that Messi factor. And I just think that the Netherlands have got too much overall for the Argentinian teams. That's no disrespect to Lionel Messi. I mean, he's my favourite player. I think he's absolutely phenomenal. But I just think the Netherlands have got too much. So I'm going to go the Netherlands to face Brazil in that side of the tournament.
So take it away, Will. What about England, France, and Portugal, Morocco?
We've discussed. To be fair, we've discussed England, France.
Yeah. So definitely England, right?
We'll go, as we're going to go for my predictions, we'll say England.
Good.
But Morocco, Portugal is going to be very, very interesting, because I think Portugal were lucky that Switzerland decided to have absolutely shit the bed in their game and just forget how to defend. But Morocco are a team who were going to forget how to defend, because throughout the tournament they've been amazing. They've conceded the least goals of any team in the tournament. They've only conceded one up to this point.
That's amazing.
So I think they will prove a massive challenge for Portugal, as great as they were. But as much as I want to see an African team finally get to the semi-finals, I just think Portugal are going to sneak it. I think it'll be a tight game, and I think they'll sneak it, maybe by the odd goal, maybe just a 1-0.
Ronaldo penalty, maybe?
If I'm wrong, though, I want, as long as it's not a penalty, and they bring Ronaldo on to take it, I'll be happy. Unless he misses it.
Well, that would be fantastic. I'd happily see Morocco go through with Ronaldo missing the decisive pen.
The dream scenario is it's another 0-0. It goes to penalties, and Ronaldo has to keep them in the World Cup, or Morocco are through when he misses. Not even misses, he just skies it over the bar by a mile.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd definitely take that, because if we are assuming that England go through, then I'd love to play a Morocco team that's played, 4 hours in the last 2 knockout stages and absolutely exhausted for us to, bulldoze them in the semis.
Nathaniel, do you remember the 2018 World Cup where we played Croatia, who had played the extra time in every game up to that point?
I do remember, and I think that Southgate will have learned his lessons from then, and that won't be a problem.
I would like to hope he has.
Yeah, you'd hope so. But I mean, I think it's always interesting at this point, but 4 great ties there.
The best way I put it is, I think the winner of us and France is probably the one that gets to the final.
You would think so, wouldn't you? Because Portugal, very good team, but Portugal, have they ever been in a final?
In that game, because of what happened in that Switzerland game, them essentially changing how they play because they didn't have Ronaldo playing. It's just throwing a spanner in the works of how to predict how they're going to play.
Yeah, that's right. But I think an England-Portugal semi-final would be very interesting. I think we've lost to them the last 3 times we've played them. I think that's probably a more bitter rivalry in recent major tournaments than us and France, because we don't play them that often. But Portugal was the 2 penalty shootouts in 2004, 2006. So, I mean, this is assuming a whole lot happens. But if that does end up happening, that tie, it would be nice to get some revenge. But anything else to mention about the knockout stage bracket, or should we move on to a little bit of Hull City?
I'm gonna just my personal quick is I hope Argentina win, just because I predicted them to win the tournament and Messi to be best player on the podcast, and I want bragging rights.
Yeah. Well, I predicted Argentina as well, so I think
you did as well, actually.
Yeah, I think pretty much everyone who, if their team doesn't win, I think most people would like to see Messi win a World Cup.
A part of me is like, I don't want to see Argentina win, but I want to see Messi win. The problem is it means Argentina have to win.
Yeah, because it would finally shut up all the Ronaldo fanboys, and I think especially after the last few months at United, and he's unemployed now, isn't he? It would really put the nail in the coffin there.
I was going to just
you say Messi's better, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do, and I think that that comes from a history of watching Ronaldo. I've always categorized the way that we judge football is Ronaldo is the best player to ever play on the planet, but Messi's out of this world. He's not here different. He's not in the same category. Like he's unhuman. Like Ronaldo was a scrawny kid who then built himself as a human being to be what he is today. Messi's been a scrawny kid since he was 13 and now he's 30 odd, right? And he does things with a football that no one's ever seen before. Won everything there is to win at domestic level. Not quite got it at the international stage, which is why people still think it's an argument. But I was just going to make a very quick point. Look, I've said the Netherlands are going to go through. But Christ, if it was Argentina, Brazil in that semi-final,
yeah,
that's what I think. For sort of World Cup photo and the history of the World Cup and everything that's gone on sort of in the last 12 months. You talk about Maradona, and unfortunately Pele's not well, is he at the moment? I mean, what a game that would be to just witness and watch. So let's just see. But it's not quite Hull City Watford, is it? That's the real scintillating tie coming up.
Yeah, Sunday, 3 p.m. You know, put it in your calendar. So I've just had to look up where Watford are in the table. They're fourth, but also where Hull are, because it's been so long. We're 20th.
I've loved ignoring Hull City for the past few weeks.
I have actually, but we've had two very solid draws against top Turkish teams in friendlies. I mean, I don't think you can look into that at all, at all. But you know, I guess it's nice. It's not awful. It's not the worst thing to have ever happened to us. For that to happen.
I was going to say I didn't even know what the scores were in those two games.
It was 1-1. Tyler Smith scored the first game and Ozan scored a penalty in the second. So how do we see this one going? Because I think it's difficult to predict because it's been a month. It's a championship. Anything could happen.
It's difficult to predict at all, to be honest.
Oh, easy City win, do you think?
Unfortunately, I don't think it is pretty difficult to predict. As much as I love that. Well, I'm saying that. I'm going based on what it was like before the break, and I think, yes, Watford are definitely going to win. But it depends on what Rossini has done for this past month.
Yeah, if he's just sat and eating biscuits, then we probably will lose. But hopefully if they've practiced defending set pieces, maybe we'll have a chance to have a good second half of the season. But yeah, I mean, Ismaila Sarr, of course, probably Watford's best player.
I don't think he'll be playing. I think they'll be resting him because of the World Cup.
Yeah, perhaps. Well, here we go. Ant has said that Sarr won't be playing, according to the Watford podcast. Do not scratch your eyes. So, you know, go listen to them if you want, I guess, to hear about Sarr in particular. But, yeah, I don't know how this one's going to go. It's been nice not having to think about how City are so bad. But I guess it's difficult to predict a lineup because, you know, it's been a month. Maybe Rossini's changed tactics. But what about a prediction? Matt, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think we'll lose this game. I think it's just a bit too much. Like, if they say that Sarr is not going to play, but I mean, you know, in terms of their personnel, you look at their team on paper, it's unbelievable. Like, how they've got João Pedro playing at Vicarage Road is absolutely beyond belief for me. Like, I actually saw him when he played for Watford against West Ham last season in the Premier League. Watford lost that game 1-0, and Bowen scored the only goal of the game. But when he came on, João Pedro came on for the last half an hour. I've never seen out like it. Like, he just came on and just tore West Ham to shreds. He didn't score, but he was unbelievable. I don't know what he's doing in the Championship. So, yeah, I mean, look, Rossini's had a month. We've gone away. We've got 2 draws, happy days. Sometimes, you know, people will judge Rossini on this first game back wrongly because
shouldn't do it all.
They shouldn't do at all. There's, you know, a month's great, but it's not enough time to embed a formation and a system and the personnel. Ultimately, he's not got any of the players that he signed in that team. So, you know, you can't give him that. So, look, I think they'll have too much pace, too much power, and I think we will struggle. So I'm going to say that we're going to lose. And I said it towards the top of the shop here, I said that 2-0 is the most boring, terrible scoring football. Watford 2, Hull City 0.
Yeah, I think I might have to join you on that one. I think obviously a month is still a pretty decent time compared to what we've had recently with all the games we've had, but it's actual game time that really implements that system and the belief in the players at the back, especially that they can play out from the back. So maybe 2-0, just want to mention. Ant says it's nice not having a weekend spoiled by City, and he's optimistic that it's been a little mini pre-season almost, so there should be more structure. But do you also think Watford win?
It's definitely better that we've been able to implement all these, whatever he's trying to do, without having to play matches at the same time, and possibly losing points as a result. I agree. Completely, to be honest, I think Watford will have too much for us, regardless of what Rossini's done, because they are not a championship side. When you look at what they've got on their team, they shouldn't be fourth. They should be in the automatics, you could argue. But I'll say a different scoreline just to be different. I'll say 2-1. I'll say we'll score. It'll be a late consolation
from Longman. Yeah. Well, I'll say the same.
No, not from Longman.
From someone.
I was going to mention on Ant's point there. Like, I think there is a really good thing that he's had this month, and I agree with his optimism. Look, as you've both mentioned there, with this team and with the season that we've had, we're not going to be competing with that top 6. We're not going to be anywhere near it. We need to survive first of all, right? So, I look at us in the next few games, whether we play, that aren't going to be in that top 4. And I truly believe that those will be the real sort of indications of how successful this mini pre-season will be, like, that stretch of games. But the first game back, after a month away, it could be hit or miss. We could end up winning, but I don't think we will. But I just think that there's optimism to be had, but that will come with time, at least a month after we've had a few fixtures in. And yeah, as I said earlier, I think Watford just got too much for us.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming on, and to everyone who's commented and been watching along. 2 big games at the weekend, perhaps one more historically significant than the other, but of course, I guess some people will be interested for the England-France game, I'm sure, but
Brilliant.
I
knew that was coming. We all did.
Yeah. Well, I was deciding halfway through that whether I should make the joke or not, but I've decided to do that. So, yeah. Thank you very much. And yeah, thanks to everyone who's listening. Big games, hopefully a Hull and an England win. But if not, then we'll be back next week to commiserate.
To drown our sorrows.
Exactly. So yeah, thanks again, and we'll see you very soon. Goodbye.